it was so enlightening that the values that we have in the Episcopal Church about how much say-so lay people have, and how we're each responsible for our faith, that we don't have somebody telling us, you have to believe this, and this is how it's going to be, with no input from anybody else except one guy. So they understood the value of that and how that would work in their lives. It was such a blessing. The other thing is that we had an official youth presence at General Convention on the floor of the House who had voice, not vote, but they had voice, and they voiced. They got up, they were articulate, they spoke in favor of some of the resolutions that had come up, the DREAM Act, support for the DREAM Act, and they got up and gave testimony and were eloquent and articulate. It was, and many of the deputies from other dioceses were also very, very young adults. Many more young adults than I've been to 5 general conventions. I've never seen this many young adults as deputies on the House floor. It was extraordinary to see the energy. So yeah, you hear these, oh, the Episcopal Church is in decline, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's in decline in a particular way, but it's on the rise in many other ways. And so one of the wonderful resolutions that was passed was called creating new mission enterprise zones. Mission enterprise zones. I thought, whoa, what is that? So of course I had to read all this stuff, because I was in the House. And so it's defined as a geographic area, as a group of congregations, or as an entire diocese. But here's the crux. They have to be committed to mission and evangelism that engages underrepresented groups, including young people, people of color, poor and working class people, people with high school diploma or less, or people with little or no church background or involvement. And when you pass a resolution and you don't fund it, you're just blowing hot air. We funded this to the tune of about $1 million. So it has teeth. It has possibilities. It was extraordinary. So many other things happened that were of huge importance. There were some that I thought, do we need to waste time on this? So you can see both sides of it. Like one of the resolutions that people talked about was concealed weapons in church. And it's like you would think, okay, this is a no-brainer. We don't need to have a resolution about that. But unfortunately, there are states that have allowed this, and so you can't put a sign in front of the door that says no concealed weapons allowed because you're going against state law. Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. So so you have to wrestle with that. What do you do with that? So I don't know. I can't even remember what that vote was, but it was like, oh God. The Committee on Structure had 80 resolutions. Like how do you manage something like that? Okay, finally, and this was one of those pivotal moments in the House of the Life of the House of Deputies, where after the vote, because there's very strict behavior norms for the House, and one of them is no booing, no applauding, none of that. But when this measure passed, this one that I'm going to tell you about, everybody broke out in song. And there was laughter and clapping. And the resolution that passed was this: the creation of a committee that's going to look at how do we restructure our church so that we can be more nimble, was the word that was used quite a bit. Everybody, it was unanimous. There was no dissension, no discussion, no how come we shouldn't, blah, blah, blah. Because the reality is our church is it's kind of cumbersome how we do things. And so everybody agreed, we've got to find another way. Now, one of the results that's already in the works is our headquarters, which is called 815, because it's the 815 2nd Avenue, New York City, which is prime real estate. I mean, it's in between the New Inn and Grand Central Station on 2nd Avenue. I mean, it's huge, huge investment. But it costs too much to run. And it's not good for the headquarters to be so focused on one part of the country, when in reality, the growth of the church is happening out this way. So the House of Deputies voted that we were going to sell 815. The House of Bishops got it and amended it and said, no, we're not going to sell, but we're going to move the staff. The staff will no longer be headquartered in New York City. So that was a good compromise, and it passed when it came back to the House, because it came back to the House amended, and so we voted it and we concurred. And so we're not selling 815, which would be a huge mistake, but we are moving the headquarters. The people are going to, a lot of them are already scattered. So we broke out in song, and it was glorious. It was wonderful to see the whole house be of one accord in this one area. But there were moments. And because what is really good news for a lot of us was sad for some of us. So there was a measure which asked for the authorization of same-sex blessings. And the last General Convention authorized the development of these liturgies. And so they were supposed to report back at this General Convention what they came up with. Well, what they came up with is so beautiful that I would use them for our regular, normal marriage rites. They're absolutely breathtaking. The theology and the words and the imagery, it's gorgeous. But they were designed for same-sex blessings. Well, the measure passed in both houses by huge majority. But there were people that were not in agreement. And so the Bishop of South Carolina and most of his deputation elected to leave General Convention. And this was very painful for everyone. So when that measure passed, there was no hoopla, there was none of that, because it would have been rude in the face of the pain that other people were experiencing. It was a good thing to do. It was the right thing to do. But it cost some people their peace of mind. And so one of the deputies got up and asked permission of the President of the House of Deputies to read the statement that the bishop had written and to allow deputies to stand in silence in solidarity with that statement. So he read the statement. It was beautifully crafted, beautifully well thought out. I don't agree with it, but it was a beautiful statement. And so then the House of Deputies president invited those who wanted to be in solidarity with that statement to rise, and they did. And there were about 40 people who stood up. And it was a grace-filled moment. It was painful, but none of the discussions on any of the issues that were so heated ever got ugly. None of them, including that one, which other times at General Convention, similar to the rancor that's out there in our political discourse nowadays, which is abominable, there was not that spirit at General Convention, and I'm deeply grateful for that. Because we're not all going to agree, but we must all love each other and respect each other and give each other the dignity that we each deserve. And so the people who stood were honored, not because the House agreed, because they did not, but because they loved them, and in deep gratitude that they didn't leave. Some of the delegation of South Carolina stayed because they wanted to signal that they didn't want to leave the Episcopal Church. So that was very moving. It was grace-filled. In spite of the pain, it was beautiful. So At the end of the convention, can we say that we stood for the kind of courage that John the Baptist displayed? Many things didn't pass that I thought should have. Many things, many issues of justice and equality did not pass. And some passed that I thought were silly. But I think we took some courageous steps. But like as individuals, we all have a way to go. Our church has a way to go. We're not done. But as Bishop Michael Curry said, we need some crazy Episcopalians right now. I hope that we're crazy enough to believe that we can make a difference, that we can do some good in this world, and that through the courage that we do have to stand for our faith, that we're crazy enough to believe that we can do it. Amen.